Hey there everybody, today we're going to be taking a good hard look at the Smart Pistol, applying some simple math and drawing conclusions as to whether or not it's a fair weapon. In order to keep our discussion today focused, let's assume that the Smart Pistol is not an amped version and is using the enhanced targeting attachment. No other permutations are going to be considered. To challenge the Smart Pistol, we will be evaluating the Carbine as well. Let's get started. Before we get into the math, let's first have a brief discussion about human reaction time and how that plays into our Smart Pistol versus Carbine matchup. In fact, let's quickly break down reactions in general and evaluate the components that make up a human reaction. First, we have a sensation. We see a shape moving around in our peripheral vision. Second, there is a recognition. We realize that the shape moving around is in fact a pilot and he's got a Smart Pistol pointed in our general direction. Third, we evaluate our situation. We look for cover, look for an area to break line of sight, or choose to turn and fight. Given multiple choices, we have an inherent lag in our decision-making process as we're deciding on a course of action to take. Once we do eventually select an option, how long does it take for us to perform the muscle movements required to respond to our stimulus? What about monitor lag, TV lag, input lag? What is the difference between an uninspected reaction time and an expected reaction time? In general, the Carbine user has to deal with all of these things. The Smart Pistol user, however, only deals with some of these factors. So the biggest positive point of the Smart Pistol is the fact that you simply do not have to deal with the quote-unquote unexpected reaction times at all, which I will explain in what I mean by that in a moment. As you turn a corner, your Smart Pistol automatically begins locking on to any target within your targeting reticule. You only have to play the quote-unquote expected reaction time game, which is much easier to do much more quickly than the unexpected reaction time. So okay, so what is this expected reaction time and unexpected reaction time? What does that mean? Why are you just making words up, Frothy? Well, let's explain really quickly. And I guess by quickly, I mean it's going to take me a long time. So what is the difference between an expected and unexpected reaction time? Allow me to illustrate right here an expected reaction time in the clip that you're seeing right now. In this clip, you're seeing me actually test my own reaction time on a website called humanbenchmark.com. And they have a catalog of like over 10.6 million tests that people have run on this exact same website using this exact same test to see how quick their reaction speeds are. Now note that the methodology of this test is pretty much, in a situation where you only have one stimulus that you're waiting for. You have a big red bar coming across your screen and you're waiting for that green bar to appear and you gotta click your mouse as quickly as possible. It's all that there is to it. So that's what I would call an expected reaction time, where you are focused and determined to react to one specific stimulus as quickly as you can and you are not at all focused on anything else whatsoever. Whereas when we go into an unexpected reaction time, that's a little bit more of a squishy topic. So basically what I would mean by this is I'm going to go ahead and link a video in the description as well as you're going to be seeing an annotation right now. Basically in this video what you're going to be seeing is 4 people in white shirts and 4 people in black shirts, and 2 of each from each side has a basketball. They're going to be kind of dancing in and around amongst each other, just passing the balls back and forth, and your goal is to watch the people in the white shirts only and pay attention to how many times they end up passing the ball back and forth. You're going to be seeing people in black shirts do the exact same thing, but your goal is to completely ignore them and to rule out any passes that they perform. You only want to see passes from a white player to another white player. So when you watch this video, what's going to happen is you're going to basically be so focused on these white shirted players that you're not going to be seeing anything else happen in the background. And what happens in the background? Well, we have a guy wearing a bear suit, like literally just a big bear costume. He does the moonwalk straight through the frame, and most people, the first time that they watch the video, they never even notice that. So I could potentially, in a sort of roundabout way, liken that to a Smart Pistol user. So you're playing Titanfall. You have all kinds of grunts shooting around each other, pilots jumping all over the place, Titans in your line of sight. Your focus is in, 8 different places at once, trying to keep in mind, what is my velocity? How is my current bunny hop doing? Am I maintaining my velocity the way that I should be? What are these players doing? What is that Titan doing? Is my flag being pulled right now? Is that marked for death target in a Titan or on a Titan? All this kind of stuff that you're constantly focused on. If a Smart Pistol comes off to your side in your peripheral vision, you're not going to react to it just like that and immediately see him and do something about it. You're gonna have to you have to see it in your periphery and kind of think for a split second, like, oh crap, that's a Smart Pistol, he's looking at me, I have to react to that now or I'm gonna die. So going back to that basketball video analogy, just imagine it this way. What if your goal when watching that video was, instead of just watching the basketballs go every time and counting them, what if your goal was to shoot the basketballs every single time that they were between players' hands, while simultaneously looking for that bear and, making sure that he is not able to smart pistol you in the face. That's kind of what I would liken it to. It's not the best example, but I think that it's close enough to kind of get my point across, and that's all that we're really looking for here. Anyways, let's get back on topic. I think that's enough about dancing bears for one lifetime. So the smart pistol user in most cases doesn't have to rely on their unexpected reaction time. They get a nice red indicator showing that they're in the process of locking on, can evaluate the speed at which their lock is occurring, and then time their trigger pull to occur just a few frames after that big red full lock is achieved. Their time to kill is very consistent, repeatable, and has the quality of being expected. Carbine users must approach a new scene by scanning an entire area manually, and the time it takes them to find a target visually, move their aim to that target, aim down sights, and begin firing, a smart pistol user would already be at least halfway locked onto a target, if not more. The smart pistol user doesn't have to deal with the inconveniences of waiting for sensation, recognition, or situational evaluation. They've only got to deal with the inherent latency of net play and the input lag of their equipment. So with this long preface out of the way, let's now get into some of the math regarding these two weapons, and I will start with the smart pistol. So I've broken down the smart pistol and, in Sony Vegas, just in recordings, I've gone frame by frame to determine how long it takes you to do your initial lock-on of 3 locks, then the initial time that it takes you to actually fire your weapon, from start to finish, because there's going to be some lag in the smart pistol user's shooting between when that lock is acquired and when they actually begin shooting. There's going to be a few frames delay there, so there is a little bit of variation in their potential killing time, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty much the same. So your smart pistol locks on from point blank range in 1.07 seconds, not including the time it takes you to shoot and kill. The smart pistol max range lock-on time is 1.73 seconds, so therefore your smart pistol lock-on speed is governed by your distance from an opponent. It doesn't seem to at all be tied to whether they're in the middle of your aiming reticule or at the corner. They seem to lock on at the same speed. It's only a distance thing from my limited testing. So if we take a look at the smart pistol from the very first frame that you see it shooting until the time where the last shot is fired and the smart pistol begins relocking again. By the way, I guess I should mention, when you fire the smart pistol after you fire 3 shots, there is a latency between when that third shot is fired and when the enemy gets killed, that the smart pistol actually begins locking on to an enemy again. So like you start building a 4th lock after you fire the 3rd bullet, and then 0.4 seconds later is when it actually gets you the kill after that latency. So there's kind of an awkward latency period there, but basically your fastest possible smart pistol kill, assuming perfect execution and point blank range at all times, is 1.47 seconds. So that's generally not going to happen in practice. It's going to be more like 1 3/4 to 2 seconds for a full smart pistol kill generally. Now for the carbine, your ideal carbine kills in 4 body shots. That takes 0.22 seconds. However, we must factor in a lot of, human error, reaction times, all that kind of stuff. So we'll go through these one at a time. When looking at expected reaction speed, as I discussed before, we can expect an average reaction time of 0.25 seconds if we accept the 10.6 million points of data from humanbenchmark.com as acceptable evidence. How long does an unexpected reaction take, though? Half a second? 3/4? For now, let's assume that the carbine user has a consistent reaction speed of half a second, which in my personal opinion is lightning quick, bordering on godlike, and most people generally don't have that sort of reaction speed, but just for the sake of easy math, let's go ahead and use half a second. So where were we with our numbers? We just showed that the carbine can technically kill in 0.22 seconds if we ignore headshots and have 100% perfect aimbot level accuracy. What happens when we start factoring in human error? Let's say our aim is no longer perfect, and that we're hitting the Reddit community average of 28.2% of our shots. So using the formula that you're seeing on screen right now, we're able to calculate out how long it's going to potentially take us to kill an opponent, given this accuracy. that we are assuming that all players have, just kind of as a baseline. So assuming a 28.2% accuracy, we're looking at 0.79 seconds to kill, plus half a second for our human reaction times, which equals 1.29 seconds for a kill. That's still more than fast enough to kill a smart pistol user if we're already aiming down the sights, and we're swapping targets to that smart pistol user like the moment we react to them. We're not seeing them and saying, okay, they're a secondary threat to this or that. It's, as soon as we see them, we're like, oh crap, we must kill this right now. That's kind of what I'm assuming in this case. So let's say that we're not aiming down our sights and that we need to actually, do that before spraying this person down at 28.2% accuracy. The time between the aiming down sights animation beginning and the crosshair being centered in your screen is 0.23 seconds, so our total time to kill now comes to 1.52 seconds. We're now technically slower than the fastest possible smart pistol kill. However, the smart pistol user must be right up in our faces for that to be faster, and it's not unreasonable to assume that our accuracy versus smart pistol user might be increased at this range, so it's not unreasonable to say that the Carbine has a good chance of still winning here. Probably will. However, this is the part of the video where our math starts to break down even more than it already was broken down, and things become really squishy. So who's to say how long it's going to take you to react to the stimulus of an enemy pilot entering your vision when you are not specifically looking for them and trying to react to them while moving around the map at breakneck speed? How can you quantify how long it takes for a person, on average, to see that pilot, center their aim on them, and reliably spray them down if their accuracy is 30% or less? I could try to make up numbers, but they'd be just that, made up. If your accuracy is below average, it could be argued that that's your own fault, and that you die to any other weapon just as easily. If your reaction speed to the unexpected stimulus of a smart pistol and your peripheral vision is slower than a godlike 0.5 seconds, you're doomed to fail from the start. So let me just throw a few more time to kill calculations at you really quickly. I'm not going to talk about them too much, just some permutations of the numbers, so you can go ahead and check those out on your screen here. That's from, what I've said in the past is that, 1.52 seconds seems to be like kind of, I guess, a fair estimate of how long it'll take you to kill somebody with a carbine, based upon human error, imperfect accuracy, all that kind of stuff. What happens if you have above average accuracy and a really godlike reaction speed? So let's say you have a 40% accuracy, which is above the average, for sure, by a lot. Your time to kill is going to be shrunk down to 1.3 seconds, so you're going to be able to pretty consistently kill a smart pistol user every time if you're able to react at that kind of a speed. If you have average accuracy and a quote-unquote normal reaction speed, in my opinion, which, let's just say, I think maybe 0.8 seconds is probably closer. It might be even longer, but, let's just say 0.8 seconds, just for the heck of it. Your time to kill is going to drop to 1.82 seconds, which is really in that gray area of, are you going to be able to kill that smart pistol user fast enough, If you just happen to miss a couple shots and the answer is no, if you're on your game, then you're going to be pretty consistent, but you're just in that weird little gray area, in my opinion. What happens if you have above average accuracy and a quote-unquote normal reaction speed, in my opinion again, of like 0.8 seconds? You're going to be coming out to 1.59 seconds to kill, which, that's a little bit farther out of the gray area. You're pretty consistently going to be able to kill that smart pistol user as long as you're on top of your game. Now, some might argue, but FrothyOmen, why does this make the smart pistol broken? Any other weapon could do just the same thing. Well, that's true to an extent, but you have to remember that there is a human on both sides of our exchanges here. If we make this carbine versus carbine instead of carbine versus smart pistol, now both users have the possibility of missing shots. They both have to deal with all the exact same factors affecting reaction speed. Half of them aren't simply gone for one of the two people in this exchange. Smart pistol versus smart pistol exchanges are also, in my opinion, extremely stupid, because there's not really any way for one user to outperform another. Lock-on speed is governed only as a function of distance, so there's no speed difference between locking on at the corner of your reticule versus the middle of your reticule. Therefore, it's just a fight of whoever gets the other in their reticule first, since their lock-on speeds are going to be identical, and who is able to predict the final lock-on timing and click first while simultaneously having a favorable ping. If one of the players breaks line of sight, it's going to be broken for the other as well. It becomes a tactical ability war instead of a battle of aim quality. Going back to a smart pistol versus carbine kind of situation here, if the carbine user elects to use cloak, then they will have the extra time they need to line up their shot and get an edge on the Smart Pistol user. Stim helps in this situation as well, since they can take a fourth shot, which the Smart Pistol user must lock on with a second time, drastically increasing their time to kill. Proper tactical ability use is of course critical when engaging Smart Pistol pilots, however, it's not available to you at all times, so you have to be performing at the top of your game to have a consistent kill on that player whenever your tactical ability is not available, especially if you're using radar pulse, because you have no crutch whatsoever. So now let's talk about, is this Smart Pistol actually overpowered, or is it imbalanced, or, what's going on with this weapon, at least in my opinion. So a Carbine user who's fighting against the Smart Pistol must be playing their heart out to consistently beat a Smart Pistol, while the Smart Pistol can lackadaisically just kind of play the game and not perform too terribly differently from a Smart Pistol user who's playing their own heart out. A computer is doing half the work for the Smart Pistol player, and eliminating the concept of human reaction times and fine motor skills in the form of accurate target tracking. They basically don't have much of a chance to actually prove that they're good at the one thing FPS basically boils down to, which is fast and accurate shooting. The Smart Pistol on paper is not very overpowered whatsoever. It's a quite well balanced weapon versus pilots actually, and fills a really interesting niche. That said, I still think that the weapon is stupid in its current state and maybe shouldn't put quite as much pressure on pilots as it currently does. Next, I have what I think is a pretty novel idea to add a little bit more of a skill factor to the Smart Pistol, which will reward good aim, while still remaining accessible and viable for lower level players whose aim and reaction times are simply not up to par. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, just because you're not a super elite MLG pro doesn't mean, it's not a big deal. So it also will not gimp the performance of the weapon in attrition, when you're killing grunts, pretty much at all. At least I don't think it will. So in the future, if any Respawnites happen to be watching this far into the video, which I kind of doubt you are, but in the case that you happen to be, I would not necessarily recommend that the Smart Pistol be removed from the game, deleted, and never given the opportunity to appear again. I would simply limit its usefulness versus pilots while simultaneously adding more components of skill to the weapon. I would petition that lock-on speed not only be governed by distance from a player, but also, what I mean is distance between players, but also by distance from the center of the reticule to the side of the reticule as well. This means that even if two Smart Pistols were to engage one another, the one with better aim would still win pretty much every time, not just who saw them first by a fraction of a millisecond, and who has the better ping. There's a little bit more of a skill gap in there, where a better player can shine through more often than the less skilled player. In addition, this would also mean that somebody who is lackadaisically parkouring around the map, and who doesn't have, and isn't trying very hard to actually aim effectively at his opponents, is going to be locking on and getting kills much slower than someone who's playing really hard with that Smart Pistol and trying to still have a good tracking while using it. That would be my kind of fix, I guess. Hopefully that, a lot of people would agree that that's a reasonable change to the Smart Pistol, so it makes it less of, just seeing them faster and pulling the trigger. It's more about, do you still have good aim? Even though you're not holding the trigger down and spraying at somebody, are you still able to track them at least somewhat effectively? That's kind of the way I would like to see the weapon go. Anyways, guys, I know this has been a really, really long video. We're coming up on 20 whole minutes here, so sorry for, making it so long, but, I needed all this time to kind of get all my points across and, really explain stuff in the way that I wanted to explain it. I didn't want to, speed things up and skip little areas just for the sake of making the video shorter or making more people willing to watch it because it has a smaller timestamp on YouTube. I wanted this to be at least somewhat comprehensive of my thoughts and opinions on it, and try to be as objective as I can, but still kind of apply my own opinions to it. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed. I hope that you've learned something new, and I hope that that you kind of agree with some of my viewpoints after hearing them and after having some kind of mathematical proof relating to them. If you disagree with me, that's totally fine, or if you agree with me, that's totally fine. I'd love to hear all of your opinions about this in the comment section below and discuss them in more detail. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching. I hope that you really enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if you feel so inclined, and we'll see you next time. Take care.